Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Trollheim with your host, this one, Rabbi Anibal. Welcome, everyone, to the weekly class where we can explore the weekly Parsha and more. Because we are going to study about Purim today. If we have time, we are going to study a little bit about this week's Parsha. It's a great Parsha. But Purim is coming. So sometimes when we have a holiday like Purim coming, it takes over, right? And it's important for us to refresh our knowledge about Purim. Brenda Grossman, shalom from Bucerias, Mexico. Wow. Fancy. Fancy, Brenda. Never been to Bucerias. Been to Mexico before, but never to Buceria. So let us know how it is. Probably warm. I'm gonna guess. Probably warm. Well, warmer to Winnipeg for sure. For sure. Even though it's not crazy cold right now, it's still cold. Still cold. So welcome. Let me acknowledge everybody who's been saying hello from the beginning. Hello, Shelly. Welcome, David. Welcome, Leah. Welcome, Jerome and Brenda. If there is anyone else there, please say hello. I always like to know who is on the other side before we start. Hello, Judy. Welcome to the class. And as I mentioned, we're going to study about Purim. And there are things that I always like to study every year. Like Shelley, so you were in Bucerias in the mid-70s. It probably changed. Yes. Ashira is here. My wife is here. Hello. Welcome to the class. And yeah, Bucerias. What is it, Atlantic or Pacific? Bucerias. Sorry, my ignorance. Sorry, my ignorance of the geography of Mexico. And let's see. I can see there. That's better. Sunny and warm and windy. Working in the market and listening. Okay. Well, so we are going to study start in a couple of minutes with my presentation for all of you. But I hope you're making plans to celebrate Purim this year. And that could mean many things, right? For starters, to get a costume. Also, if you can, make plans to go to a synagogue to listen to the Megillah. It's very important to listen to the Megillah during Purim. You know, it's interesting because the mitzvah is not to read the Megillah, but the mitzvah is to listen to the Megillah. It's a confusion. It's a confusion people get every year and think that it's okay if you go and read it at home. It's not about reading it. It's about listening to the Megillah being read from a kosher scroll, like the one we have here at Shaare Zedek, and we have a wonderful program for Purim on next Thursday evening, when we are going to have a big Megillah reading with, that's when everybody comes. Dor Hadash Choir is going to sing, and yeah, you have to come to see them. They're going to be so cute. The choir, all dressed like minions. I'm going to be Gru. So you have to picture that. Only that should be a good reason for you to come, to see me dress up as Gru and all the kids as minions. Come on, all at Shaare Zedek, you can get that. Welcome, Randy. Welcome to the class. So that is what it's going to be. And then on Friday morning, we repeat the reading of the Megillah. Usually it's a smaller crowd, so we have an opportunity. It's less noisy. Let's put it that way. So you have a better opportunity to actually get into the text of the Megillah and so forth, right? So yeah, I hope you're gonna make plans for Purim. So without further ado, let's begin with today's class. And there is something that I have to say before we start studying Purim, because there is something that we should all do before Purim, and I mentioned year after year after year, and not too many people do it. Not too many people do it, even though we study it every year. So I'm going to repeat it again, and that is the half shekel. Let's see who remember from last year when we studied about the half shekel. And this is very important. It used to be a mitzvah, now it's more of a tradition because the temple doesn't exist anymore. Unfortunately, the temple was destroyed and we don't have the opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah of the half shekel. But this is something that is done all the way from the beginning of the month of Adar up to the eve of Purim. Okay, some people leave it for the eve of Purim, but it's something that could be done at any time during the month of Adar. So let's review what is the half shekel, and I did my homework and I have updated values for you. You will see in a minute what I'm talking about. So let me read it. On the eve of Purim, or as I mentioned before, during the entire month of Adar, if you want, there is a custom to donate money to the synagogue, a commemoration of the half shekel donated annually to the temple treasury during the month of Adar. Okay? We make 3 donations because in the Torah portion dealing with the half shekel, the word teruma, donation, appeared 3 times. So by the way, that is the one that we read last week. It's called Shabbat Shekalim. And we read it at the beginning of Adar. Shabbat Shekalim, the shekel, because Adar is the time when the shekel used to be brought to the sanctuary. So we read from the Torah at the beginning of the month of Adar how that worked. And this is something that is beyond any other donation that you may give to the synagogue, beyond membership. That is different, that is separate. The half shekel is something that even in the past used to go above and beyond whatever you may have donated to the temple. This was mandatory for everybody, the rich and the poor, to bring this half shekel to the temple every year. Some scholar says that it was also a way to count people. It was an early form of census. But if everybody brings the same coin, you put it in a bag, let's say, or in a box, and then by counting all the coins, you know how many people you have living there. So that was one of the reasons of the half shekel. This is something that we learn in a different part of the Torah, where God instructs the Jewish people that we are not allowed to count people by pointing. We have to use an indirect method of counting people. We still do this for the minyan, when we need to know, for example, if you have a minyan to begin with the services. We know that we need at least 10 adults in the room, but how do you count the 10? You can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not allowed because we are not allowed to count people directly. It has to be indirect. Welcome, Amparo. Welcome to the class. Has to be indirect. So when you come to synagogues to count for minyan, the tradition is, for example, memorizing a verse from scripture that contains 10 words. So what you do is, without pointing, you go around, and as you look at everyone in the room, you recite this verse, 1 word at a time, and then you know if you have 10 people or not. Or as Shelly put here in the chat, I've seen this too. I will put it here. Not 1, not 2, not 3, etc. Very interesting way of counting, but we are not allowed to do a direct count, so half shekel was for that. But eventually this evolved into a form of engagement and connection with the synagogue to bring the half shekel every year. And because we are not talking about the original half shekel anymore, this is in remembrance of the half shekel, because the word teruma, offering or donation, appear 3 times in that Torah portion. we bring 3 half shekels. We're going to study that in a minute. So, very important, when we contact the synagogue to make the donation, we don't say, hey, this is my half shekel donation. You don't supposed to do that. Let me explain why. I'm reading now. The experts in Jewish law explain that nowadays one should be careful not to call the donation the half shekel. Rather, you will say, hello, I came to make a donation in commemoration of the half shekel. Okay? For if one would call it the former, so I'm bringing my half shekel, this money becomes consecrated to the Holy Temple of Jerusalem and thus be prohibited to benefit from, thereby prohibiting the synagogue any benefit of that money. So if you come to the synagogue and said, hey, I'm bringing this check, this is for the half shekel, then the synagogue cannot use that money. It has to be kept forever until the Messiah comes and the temple gets rebuilt. So the right way of doing it is, hello, I'm coming to make a donation in commemoration of the half shekel, and the synagogue can use that anywhere they want. So, Randy, you're already guessing, eh? The value. Hold on, wait a minute, because it's kind of complex how we calculate this business of the shekel. Now, let's start with what Rabbi Saadia Gaon explained about the half shekel. He said, the amount one should donate for the commemoration of the half shekel. Because again, the coin, the half shekel coin doesn't exist anymore. So he said, what is the amount one should donate in commemoration of the half shekel? The actual half shekel coin amounted to the weight of 9 grams of pure silver. Women must also donate money in commemoration of the half shekel, because remember, this was to count people. And it is proper for one to donate this amount for one's small children as well. Some have the custom to donate this amount for their unborn babies as well. This is now that is a tradition. This is not the original mitzvah anymore. Okay? So this is the most accepted way on how to do it. Now, how we do it? Listen to this. I wish my math teacher would see me now after all the grief they gave me when I was at school. The way to calculate this sum is as follows. A troy ounce of silver consists of 31.1 grams. Okay? Thus, the price of one troy ounce of silver is $32.78 US on March 5th, because I put this together yesterday. That must be divided by 31.1 and then multiplied by 9 in order to find the updated price of 9 grams of silver, which is the value of the actual half shekel coin. So, and that is, for your benefit, so you don't have to get a calculator, $9.48 US or 13.57 Canadian dollars. That's yesterday value. If you're watching us from somewhere else that is not the United States of Canada, I apologize in advance. I don't have your number. But then once you have the US dollar amount, you can go to any calculator and make the conversion very easily. Okay? So again, half shekel, 9.48 US dollars or 13.57 Canadian dollars. Now, that means, because you remember you have to give 3 times the half shekel. So that will be 28.45 US dollar or 40.73 Canadian dollar. And that is the value that, if you want to fulfill with the tradition of bringing a donation in commemoration of the half shekel, that should be the official number that you should be donating. Okay? But remember, this is a tradition, it's a custom. It's not the mitzvah anymore because the temple doesn't exist anymore. And so this is the most, how would I say, the most stringent way to fulfill the mitzvah of the half shekel, the most stringent one. But we always know that when we are talking about rabbinic law, because at the end of the day, this is rabbinic law. It's a custom that eventually became a law. So it's rabbinic law. It's not biblical law anymore. When you're talking about rabbinic law, you're always allowed to be more lenient. When you're talking about Torah law, the tradition is always to do it in a more stringent way. But this is rabbinic law, so you can go and do it in a more lenient way. So what the rabbis explain about that is, in any case, the minimum amount of the donation for the commemoration of the half shekel is the value of a coin, which is a half of the local currency. Okay? So that means that, for example, in Canada, this will be a $half coin. Hence, the donation will equal 50 cents times 3, 1.5 Canadian dollars, and the US dollar will be exactly the same, 1.5 US dollar. And that is the minimum donation in commemoration of the half shekel in case you want to fulfill this mitzvah this year to commemorate Purim in a different way. Just saying, I wanna teach you how this works. So, yeah, Brenda, you say, how does double high sound? It sounds great. It sounds great. It's because being a tradition, you can donate whatever you want. As far as you say when you call the synagogue, hey, this is in commemoration of the half shekel. And I always laugh because people sometimes comes and the person answering the phone at the synagogue will be totally clueless. What is the commemoration of the half shekel? So there you have an opportunity to train the receptionist of your synagogue of what this mitzvah is. So you can become teachers for the day, explaining people around what is the mitzvah or the tradition of commemorating the half shekel. I hope you have a chance to fulfill this. It's beautiful because remember that the half shekel was given as a way for people to feel that they count. They count. That you mean something. You are connected to a larger project. That was the idea of bringing this small donation to the temple, that it was beyond any other donation that you may have given during the year. Okay? Now, let's study about Purim. Purim starts with the fast of Esther. This year, it will be dawn to nightfall on Thursday, March 13, 2025. Okay? So it's the day before, so it's the day of the Megillah reading. So the Megillah is at night. So that day before the Megillah reading is a fast day, and it's called the fast of Esther. Why is it called the fast of Esther? Because it's coming from the book of Esther. And you can read a little bit about this in Esther chapter 4. Okay? I want to read here for you a couple of verses, but you have to understand that this is a bigger picture, and I will explain in a minute why is the bigger picture here and why the fast became kind of a big deal for the Jewish people. So let me explain. And I'm reading now, Book of Esther. Esther had them return this answer to Mordecai. Them is Esther's servants. Go, assemble all the Jews to be found in Shushan, and have them fast for me, neither eating nor drinking for 3 days, night and day. Also, I and the girls attending me will fast the same way. When I will go into the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Then Mordecai went his way and did everything Esther had ordered him to do. So this is what happened with Esther after Mordecai sent a message to Esther, said, look, Haman wants to destroy all the Jewish people of Persia. You need to go to talk to the king. And then Esther said, well, but I cannot go to talk to the king because that's against the law. It's not like that. You have to be summoned by the king. Otherwise, you are not allowed to go. commoner or princess, doesn't matter. If the king doesn't call you, you're going to put to death on the spot, unless the king raises his golden scepter to stop the guards from killing you. Okay? So Esther said, I can't do that. And Mordecai said something very interesting. He said, Esther, it's your obligation to go, because how do you know that actually God didn't put you in that position for you to be the one saving all the Jews? Now you can understand why the master plan was for you to become the princess of Persia. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to play your role within the Jewish people. Then Mordecai said something that is amazing. That he says, don't believe that because you're the princess, you're going to escape the fate. Don't believe that because you think right now that you're a Jew that is in a special position, you're going to be able to escape the fate of your people. And this is something that happened with the Nazis, right? That people said, oh no, Hitler won't touch me. I'm a doctor. I'm a professor, right? How wrong they were. That Hitler didn't discriminate who were who. A Jew was a Jew was a Jew. And the final solution was intended for everybody. So kind of Mordecai said that to Esther. And then Mordecai said also to Esther, if you don't want to go to play your part, don't worry. I'm pretty sure God is going to appoint somebody else. And if God wants salvation for the Jewish people, salvation is going to come from a different way, from a different place. But it's better to be you. Better to be you. And you have to play your part in the survival of the Jewish people. And when I read that part, I feel that Mordecai is talking to all of us. That's saying, don't think because you're living, for example, in a safe neighborhood or a safe country or a place that they had less anti-Semitism than other places. Doesn't matter. You're a Jew and you have a responsibility to be an instrument of salvation for your people, and you have to play your role. It's not up to us to avoid that responsibility. It's up to us to step up and to play our part in forging the destiny of the Jewish people. So this is very important, and that's why the Megillat Esther is so relevant. And we make a mistake sometimes to make it look like a kid's story. Purim is for kids. No, Purim is not for kids. I'm sorry. It might have a kids component, but Purim is for adults. You need an adult mind to understand all these things that we have to read between lines when we read the Megillah, because they are so deep. So deep. So at the same time, and this is what I wanted to say at the beginning, with the fast of Esther, why this is so important. Because Esther said, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go talk to the king. If I die, whatever, but I'm gonna play my part. But please let me know that you are with me. I wanna feel supported by you. Please don't let me feel that I'm alone in this quest. All I'm asking from you, go and fast for me. And I know in the Megillah, they fasted for 3 days. The rabbis decided we don't have to fast for 3 days. When, it's almost half a day of fasting, it's enough. But we do it in a way also to feel that we are all at this together, and we are connected by this fast, and we are supporting a leadership that they are the one that they are confronting anti-Semitism at a different level every day. So this is the beauty of the fast of Esther. Okay, any questions, please use the chat. I like when you interact using the chat. Let's continue. What else we do? Okay, the fast of Esther is over. Okay, now we come to synagogue in the evening. What do we do at the synagogue? The most important we do at the synagogue is not the costume parade. That is not the most important part of Purim. It's not the Grogers. It's not the noisemaker. That is not the most important part of Purim. The most important part when you come to the synagogue is reading the Megillah, or as I mentioned before, listening to the Megillah being read from a kosher scroll. And yes, at the Shari Zedek, we do have a kosher scroll, and we read it from there. So let me read. So the scroll of Esther, the Megillah, is read on Purim night on Thursday, March 13, 2025, and again the next day in the morning, Friday, March 14th, 2025. Okay? So the Shari Zedek is going to be read twice. Once on Thursday at 6:30 p.m., and then again on Friday, March 14th at 8 a.m. Okay, in case you want to come or you want to tune in to our live streaming. So we read it in the synagogue because the larger the crowd, the greater publicity is given to the miracle of our being saved. The entire Megillah must be read from a kosher scroll written with proper ink, parchment, etc. Every word must be clearly heard. And the rabbis added this paragraph, this line, every word must be clearly heard as a warning for the next line here. Listen to this, and you will understand. The custom is to make noise at the mention of Haman's name, in keeping with the commandments to wipe out the remembrance of Amalek. And Haman was a descendant of Amalek. So that's why if you are booing and making too much noise, you have to be careful to stop making the noise before the reader continues reading from the Megillah, because otherwise people won't be able to hear every word being said. Okay? So similarly, the Shabbat before Purim, this coming Saturday, March 8, is called Shabbat Zachor because the Maftir portion, the last Torah reading, features the command to remember Zachor Amalek. So that's why this Shabbat, this coming Shabbat, the one before Purim, has a special name, and we kind of get into the mood of the story of the Megillah by remembering who Amalek was, because Haman is a descendant of Amalek, and everything is connected here. Everything is connected. We are going to study more about this next Torah L'chaim, next Thursday, because I'm going to dedicate next Thursday, because it's the Purim day, to study lots of midrashim about Purim. That I thought it would be a nice or a different way to celebrate the festival. Not to study specifically about the festival, but to study midrashim written about the stories of Purim. So you have to come back next week to listen to those. Now, what else we do? What else we do during Purim? We have two main commandments that we do, and these two commandments happened outside the synagogue, and they are very, very profound, and they serve different purposes. The first one is called Mishloach Manot. Mishloach means to send. Manot means portions. In this case, is understood as portions of food. So, in other words, sending food to friends. That is the Mishloach Manot. Now, how do we fulfill this commandment? Well, on the day of Purim, you can do it in advance if you feel it. You are going to be too busy on the day of Purim itself. You can do it the day before, a couple of days before. On the day of Purim, Friday, March 14, 2025, we send 2 items of food to at least one person. Okay? So if you're talking about how do you actually fulfill the mitzvah, well, you put in a little baggie 2 items of food, you give it as a present to one friend, you fulfill the basic mitzvah. But we know that we always try to go above and beyond the basic mitzvah. So the idea is to give more than 2 portions of food to many people. So that is the way, that's the right way of doing it. So, um, yeah, and this is huge for me and my wife. And Ashira, are you still in the class, Ashira? Let me know in the chat if you're still around, because she's the one that she goes crazy for a week and if sometimes even more before Purim, baking all the hamantaschen and organizing all these baggies, and then we take it around. We bring it for the staff here at the Share Zedek. We prepare it for my conversion students and for the kids choir, but she does all the heavy lifting. I am the one sometimes giving them away and getting all the credit. She's the one who does all the work to put it together. So we try to give it as many people as possible. So how do we do with this? So it is preferable to send ready. Uh, Leah said, "Can you donate to someone you don't know or a non-Jewish person?" Yeah. So for the food, so for the mishluach manot, usually is to Jewish people. You can give it to a non-Jewish person, but this one is mostly for Jewish people. The food part, because it's to celebrate Purim, to eat Purim and to be happy during Purim, right? And because it's Jewish festival, so that's why we usually send this food to Jews. But yes, you can totally give it to a non-Jew. And there is a second part of this mitzvah, and I'm going to read it in a minute. That yes is going to be for Jews and non-Jews. And Leah, be patient for 1 minute, and you will see what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me read it. It is preferable to send ready to eat foods or drinks. The food should be of a respectable quantity according to the standards of the sender and recipient. So this means that you have to be aware of where you live. Okay? It's not the same, for example, not disrespect of what I'm going to say. It's not the same living in Winnipeg, because the expectations in Winnipeg when somebody gives or receive mishloach manot is to receive a little baggie with a couple of things. And that is the expectation, and that is totally fine. Sometimes I will see you give a little basket with 4 or 5 things, and people go, "Oh, ooh, amazing." But then, if you go, for example, to a religious neighborhood in Brooklyn, and the expectation is for Mishloach Manot, they send big basket with lots of food, and they spend a lot of money. And if you send a little baggie with a hamantaschen and a grape juice, and they will look at you like a thank you, yeah, Chag Sameach. But because you have to always be aware where you are, because the traditions vary from place to place. So I always say with these kind of things, you have to be aware of where you are, and that's why it's important to belong to a community. And then you get familiar with the standards of your community, right? So the reason for this mitzvah, the Mishluach Manot, is to ensure that everyone has sufficient food for the Purim feast. More to the point, this increases love and friendship between people, providing an ideal opportunity to embrace our fellow Jews, irrespective of any religious or social differences. After all, Haman did not discriminate among us. And that's why I'm saying that this is something that has a little bit of a different connotation for the holiday and applied more specifically to the Jewish people, because we are celebrating the fact that Jewish people escaped death in the hands of Haman, right? And that's why it has the the Jewish factor mixed with the character of Purim. But it's very important when you give Mishloach Manot to sometimes even to make an effort, and I will keep reading, make an effort. Says, for this reason, it is particularly good to give Mishloach Manot to those who you may have had an argument with, or someone new in the community who needs a new friend. Okay, and I see this, for example, on Chabad, that sometimes for Purim they put the extra effort to try to give this Mishloach Manot to people that never come to synagogue, people that they are far away from Judaism, but they know that they are Jews, just to let them know that we are all together. But then they have kind of a special brigade to give Mishloach Manot to such people, and I think it's a beautiful thing that they do every year. So Mishloach Manot should not be just for friends, but it should be for everyone. It's a time that we don't discriminate, and it's a beautiful message that we have. But now, following up with Leah's comment, we also have the second mitzvah that we do outside the synagogue, which is matanot laevyonim, gifts to the poor. Okay, so on the day of Purim, also on Friday, March 14, 2025, it is also special mitzvah to give money to at least two poor people. Why is that? Because evyonim, poor, is plural in Hebrew. So when it says evyonim, and I know in English we don't have the word poors, right? It's poor, so it's difficult to understand that it's a plural in English. But in Hebrew, it's very clear that evyonim means multiple poor people. So at least two poor people, matanot laevyonim. Each poor person should be giving at least the amount of food or money that is usually eaten at a regular meal, or the amount of money required to buy this. What is beautiful to do if you want to fulfill this mitzvah, go and get, for example, a gift card to go to like a restaurant, and go around and look for two poor people on the street and give it to them. For this one, it doesn't have to be a Jew. You can get two beggars in the corner of your city and give them this, because the whole idea now is to make them happy, is to share our joy. Can you imagine the joy of the Jewish people when they escaped death back then? And what a beautiful thing it is to know that the way you celebrate your joy is to bring in joy to someone else. I think it's a beautiful concept. So that's why we have not only the Mishloach Manot, but also the Matanot Laevyonim. Right? Now, I've been reading that all this thing that, the Matanot Laevyonim, to give food, to share food, to celebrate the fact that they were victorious, is something that is very common in the Middle East. And you see it even this day, sometimes with a negative connotation, that you will see it in the Middle East, the enemies of Israel, that every time that they score like a terrorist attack of things, they go and share candies with other people and pastries and thing, right, to celebrate that. But it looks like this is an old thing in the Middle East, and it's cross-cultural, this sharing the food. But we made it in a positive connotation during Purim to bring joy to other people. That's the whole idea. And for the Matanot Laevyonim specifically, we don't discriminate between Jews and non-Jews. We give to everyone in need. Or at least two poor people, right? Now, if you do not know who is qualified to receive the gift, because I know sometimes people say, well, I don't know if the beggar is really a beggar, or if he's going to buy drugs or whatever. To begin with, at least me, I don't discriminate. If the person is there all day, especially in Winnipeg with 30 degrees below, is holding a sign saying that they need money for food, whatever, you give them. Okay? But I said, if you don't know who is qualified to receive the gift, okay, so then give the money to an authorized charity collector. You can also do that, who will distribute the money on Purim for the purpose of fulfilling the mitzvah. It is better to spend more on gift to the poor than to Mishloach Manot, because there is no greater joy than gladdening the hearts of orphan widows and poor people. The Jewish people are one unit. We can't possibly enjoy the holiday if poor people don't have enough. Okay? So far we have, let's summarize. Half shekel, anytime during Adar. Fast of Esther, next Thursday. Megillah reading, Thursday evening, Friday morning. And then Matanot Laevyonim and Mishloach Manot on Friday morning. Okay? So far so good? Otherwise, let me know in the in the comments if you feel that I missed something. Next. Next is something that is very interesting because it's different from all other holidays, and that is the Purim meal. Let me read it and then I'll explain. The day's grand finale is the festive meal. The Purim Seudah feast should begin during the daytime and extend until after dark. And why do I say that this is different from all the other holidays? Because in all the other holidays, we have the meal first, as soon as the holiday begins in the evening, right? That's when you have the big meal. Think about Passover. When do you have the Seder? At the beginning. Think about Shabbat. When do you have the big meal? Friday night, at the beginning. Think about Rosh Hashanah. When do you have the big family meal? In the evening. When do you have the big Purim meal? At the end of the day. So basically, you don't have nothing fancy at the beginning of Purim, but you're going to have it. The idea is to eat all day long the next day. And why is that? Because that is the way the Megillat Esther, the scroll of Esther, is talking about the kind of feast that King Ahasuerus used to have in Persia in those days, that they were long banquets. It wasn't just one meal, but it was a long banquet. So what we do is we eat all day during Purim. Yes, you come to synagogue in the morning, then you're going to have a little bit of something after the Megillah reading in the synagogue. Then you go home, you have big lunch, and then it's almost like you extend the day, eating, eating, eating. It's a wonderful thing. This year is going to be challenging, though, because at the end of the day of Purim, we have the beginning of Shabbat. So you have to eat all day on Friday morning, all the way to the evening. And then you have another big meal on Friday night. So good luck with that. Good luck with that. And yeah. So what do we eat during the Purim meal? This is not the one that we eat the Hamantash in. Purim meal, we are talking about fancy dishes, meats and fruits and salads and desserts. Fancy, it's like a banquet. You have to imagine that you are in a royal banquet. And that is the Purim meal that we celebrate during the day. Okay? The next thing that we do. Ad the lo yada, until one no longer knows. What is this? Ad the lo yada is the tradition of drinking a lot during Purim. And again, because all day is during the Purim meal that we eat and drink all day long. It's coming from the Talmud, and the Talmud it says, Rava said, a man must become so intoxicated on Purim that he cannot tell the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. Okay, as simple as that. Simple as that. We're going to read more midrashim about this next week. I'm working on it. So you have to wait next week to read all the midrashim about the Ad lo yada and some Talmudic stories about what happened with people who actually fulfill this tradition of drinking a lot during Purim. Some of them didn't have a happy ending, so you will see. You will see what I'm talking about next week. So, is this a mitzvah of Purim? No, it's not. It's not a mitzvah. It's a tradition. You don't have to drink on Purim if you don't want, and you have to also be aware that at the time of the Talmud, people didn't drink cars. Didn't drive cars. So the level of danger of drinking during the day was way, way lower than it is right now. The other thing that you have to remember, at the time of the Talmud, they didn't have whiskey and distilled alcohols. So when they said, drinking all day, it used to be either beer or wine. Sometimes they will have a fortified wine, but everything was based on fermentation. Yeah. Yeah, David. You said here, let me see. If we all get intoxicated on Purim, Kabbalat Shabbat might be interesting this year. Well, that's an idea. But I said, you have to remember that there was no whiskey in the day, no scotch. All these hard liquors were not invented until something like the 1600s or 1700s. I can't remember. Those were the monks in Europe that invented all this thing of they created the distilleries and the process of distillation. And I believe that the Greeks knew it, but they never occurred to them that they could drink this alcohol. So the drinking that they used to do back in the day wasn't the kind of heavy drinking that we could do in these days. Okay, so and the idea of drinking to the way that you cannot differentiate between cursed be a man and blessed be Mordecai goes to the idea of that everything is hidden in the book of Esther. And this is very interesting, actually. This is very interesting. And I'm going to get serious here. That everything is hidden. And the hint that everything is hidden comes, number one, for the name Esther. The name Esther comes from the Hebrew word leastir, which means to hide. Now, the fact that the name of God is not present in the book of Esther, so God is not present, but it is present, is hidden. God is present because, when Esther said, go and fast. Why will you fast if it's not a religious fasting, right? Fast and pray to God. But the name of God is never mentioned explicitly. So, and then you will see many things that happen in the book of Esther that they look like, Haman, for example, reaching that immense power within the ranks of the Persian government is a curse. Well, but ended up that because of that, it ended up being a blessing in disguise. Because of a man, then Mordecai could rise and to become the second in command of Persia, and Esther could become the queen. So the fact that every time we go through life and we try to decide what is a curse, what is a blessing, it's not so clear. It's not so clear in the same way that sometimes in the world, to our eyes, to our perception, we never know who is the Haman and who is the Mordecai, who is the friend, who is the foe. So the fact that some rabbis at the time of the Talmud used to drink during the day of Purim was also to understand that concept, because when you drink, everything is fuzzy. When you drink, it's very difficult to distinguish things. So life is like that. And sometimes it's not so easy for us to differentiate between things. Who is the good guy? Who is the bad guy? We don't know anymore. We don't know anymore. We think we know. We think we know, but we don't. We don't. Yeah. Now, the other thing, again, masquerading. Coming to synagogue with a costume. It's all the same thing of Ad Lo Yada. Everything is hidden, right? So, masquerading. It is a way to emulating God who disguised his presence behind the natural events described in the Purim story and has remained concealed, yet ever present, in Jewish history since the times of the destruction of the first temple. Since the charity is a central feature of the day, when givers and recipients disguise themselves, this allowed greater anonymity, thus preserving the dignity of the recipient. Persian exiled throughout the Purim story, and since hides been alludes to hidden aspect of the miracle of Purim, which has disguised by natural event. Now, you have to understand also that God already promised, God already prophesies that God will going to hide his face in the future when the Jewish people will abandon the practice of mitzvot, the commandments. And the rabbi said, the book of Esther is such time, is the fulfilling of the prophecy when God said, I'm going to hide my face from you. And that's why the name of God is not present there, and we emulate God by coming to synagogue on a costume. That is also the tradition. Welcome, Marlene. Welcome to the class. Uh, One thing that I wanted to mention is, of course, and you probably guessed this one, that we have traditional food for Purim, and it is the Hamantashen. Hamantashen. On Purim, triangular pastry is called Hamantashen. Poppy. Hamantashen, it looks at the original name, means poppy seeds pockets. Okay, nothing to do with Haman. Nothing to do with Haman. It was a pastry that used to be eaten because it was popular in Europe, and it was made with poppy seeds. So if you want to make the most traditional Hamantashen is the one with poppy seed. Okay, of course you can do it like my wife. She makes the one with dulce de leche, with Argentinian dulce de leche. To me, that's the best. But the original one is the poppy seed pocket. In Hebrew, it's called Oznei Haman. Haman's ears. Why that name? It beats me. Unless Haman was a Vulcan or something from Star Trek, I don't know why they call it Oznei Haman. I don't know. Now, what is it? It's a sweet pastry dough rolled out, cut into circles, and traditionally filled with prune or poppy seed filling, then wrap up into triangular shape with the filling either hidden or showing. Right? Yeah. So that is the traditional food that we do, and I think this is a good point to leave it for the class. Oops, here I am. This is a good point, and that we have the opportunity to review everything for Purim. So I really hope that you will find a way to celebrate Purim this year. Leah Ehrenberg, you said, I'll have to try to make gluten-free Hamantashen. Yeah, it will be great, but I know it's difficult because the recipe sometimes when it's gluten free, it's very difficult to handle and to avoid it from breaking. But but yeah, it's difficult. And yes, Brenda Ashira has my wife has the recipe for the dulce de leche hamantashen, and they are delicious, delicious. But we also have a great pastry chef here, Sherry Zedek. I hope that we sell wonderful hamantashen here at Sherry Zedek. If you want to try our kitchen. So thank you everyone for tuning in to this Torah L'Chaim. Remember, if you missed any part of this class, it's going to be rebroadcast tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. And remember, next week, that is Purim Day, Thursday, we're going to have an entire class dedicated to different midrashim and Talmudic stories of Purim to get something extra to celebrate the special day of the festival of Purim. Until then, please stay safe, be well, and hope to see you soon. Bye, everyone.